Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode on the Robin Sealark channel. Today I thought I would do something a little insightful and hopefully perspective giving to you. I have been cataloging my art from the last 6 years since I graduated. I'm doing this in hopes of coming across some insight into what's next for me. I thought today would be a good opportunity for you to get a peek into the life of an artist 6 years post-graduation, a few pivots into their creative career path, and 4.5 months back into creative work after a year-long break. So if you have any insights into your own work and personal timeline trajectory, or any critiques or information you might want to share with me about my own work, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Check me out at Robin Sealark across all my social platforms and enjoy this. Okay, welcome to my website. Right now we are in the gallery section, and you can see I have work from 2013 up until 2020. So I was accepted as a freshman into a non-specific art school, a private university with an art program. So I got my Bachelor of Fine Arts in 2014, and I also got Art Ed certified. In 2013 is when I completed my senior thesis solo show, and in 2014 is when I completed my student teaching. So I actually graduated 2014, which puts us, yes, at 6 years post-graduation. I'm going to go into just the work I made right when I graduated, and then everything else though will be my post-grad work, 2014 to 2020, baby. So in 2013, I had a shift in the work. I went from what I did most of my undergraduate degree, which would have been these colorful, abstracted portraits. This is a self-portrait. It's one of my favorite pieces ever. I used a lot of friends and family and scoured Facebook for photos. Here's one of my oldest sister, Jenny. She doesn't love the way she looks in this picture, but I mean, it's cool for the techniques and stuff. Also, this I did paint stretched like that. But when I actually prepared for my senior show, it was after I lost my dad, so I kind of decided to jump into a different theme for my work, and things got a bit more death-focused, a little bit more dark, and that's when I started edging into landscape, which is what you're going to see make up the most of the work that I've done post-graduation. I wanted to explore water as a theme to depict death for both its beautiful and healing properties, as well as its more scary and overwhelming properties. So you come to graduation and it's just a wide open world as far as career goes and what's gonna happen, how to make money. I started stepping into teaching like roles first. So I was a mentor at a school/treatment center for high school and junior high aged girls. After that, I worked as a art integration specialist, an art teacher at an elementary school, but I was integrating with the core subject matter as well. So in 2014, I would have been working as a mentor and also making paintings. The main things I did directly after graduation was start to explore landscape more, because I had just started to touch it with my senior show, and I was using it as a way to connect to an idea of home. My dad just died, I was newly married, I was living in the state of Utah, and I grew up in New York, and it was helpful for me to feel placed by making land work. And when I went and visited home in the summer is when I really sunk into making some more nautical or water-based scenes. So everything was really heavily influenced by my direct surroundings and also by things that were making me feel connected to my dad, since he was such a big water lover. In 2015 is when I was teaching art at the elementary school, and my work, I think, was a more evolved exploration of things that I was doing in 2014. So still very idyllic nature and landscape, a lot of it on that MDF board that I like to use. It's a medium density fiber board. But it looks like maybe I explored a little bit more with scale, and while everything is pretty realistic and close to my reference photos, I did take a little bit more artistic liberty this year. In this, there's slight exploration of illustration. In the beginning for me, I didn't have as much confidence or knowledge of landscape, and so I think I tended to stay close to reference images so that I wouldn't be making mistakes unwittingly. I really like the work that I did in 2015. I think it's very pretty and colorful, and it's oil, and so there's just a certain creamy depth and vibrant richness to the colors that I like. And now we're entering 2016 territory, which is when I went full-time with art. So I used to be married, and my ex-husband Kyler was wanting to move out to New York from Utah to go do oystering for a living. So I quit my job as an elementary art teacher and we moved to New York. And that's when you can see a certain, I think, focus and maturing to my work. I was surrounded by the ocean, so I dove into that subject matter really heavily during this time. It's also when I started my YouTube channel and was selling and becoming involved in the community out in Long Island, so I was making things responsive to my natural environment again. And I got really focused in on waves, specifically kind of action detail shots, close-ups on the waves. 2016 was a really good year for me artistically. I feel like in the years when I've been able to be really focused on subject matter and direction and intent, that I'm able to show up to the studio with a bit more focus, and I think that allows a lot of ability to develop rapidly. So I think in 2016 my focus on art and all the time I spent in the studio painting and making sure I was getting to know the water paid off. In 2017, Kyler's business ended, and him and I had also decided to leave New York. We had gone through a religious shift, so we decided to just be on our own and go back to Utah, and this is when my YouTube channel was really starting to pick up. I was kind of exploring what that allowed me to do, and I think I was challenging the things that I believed and internalized and trying to be more aware of why I made the things I did, why I did the things I did, and give myself a little bit more liberty to explore. So 2017 is when I first dived into more illustrative work in my post-grad years, just silly stuff. But I knew that I enjoyed experimenting, and I wanted to start sharing that with people online. I had made this distinction that only certain types of my art were my real art, and I wanted to get away from that so that if there was something I was trying to find or might enjoy in new subject matter that I could see and attempt it. I still made a fair amount of realism in this year, but this is definitely where I think personal life and reflected in art I was starting to explore. Looking back on 2018, it looks like it was a pretty productive year for me in terms of the number of pieces I made. I think that this was the year I was getting a divorce, so there was a lot of transitions going on in my life, and I did a lot of artathons. It was a kind of new format where I would make just a ton of art and see what I came up with. And I think that this is something I like doing when I need to get a sense of what I'm interested in or feeling drawn to, and just kind of want to make a lot and all at once. I did some more abstract pieces, but something that really marks 2018 is the way I stepped into acrylic. I usually was working in oil previous to that year, and I did a lot more with acrylic. I also did plein air painting that year. I did abstract work. I did stuff very inspired by Ivan Earl, aka all of this section. This is a really directly tied work to something that he's made, at least in the foreground with those tree branches. But then something like this is much more just stylistically inspired, but this is based on a personal reference photo. And you say hi? It's Jack. Jack and I are bonding more these days. This is when, by putting time constraints on myself, I started exploring more painterly brushstrokes, and I was getting a lot more confident with the land, and it ended up changing some things in my approach and interest stylistically. So I don't know, there was like a lot of mix. It kind of feels like I was just doing a ton of stuff, which is gonna be in contrast to 2019. I think in 2018 is probably when I was thriving my most financially through my artwork. I established myself as a business and was making income through multiple revenue sources at that point. That was a good year financially. 2019, I started having a hard time in my personal life and was coping with a lot of change and existential dread and loss. And you can kind of see that reflected in the work. This year, I have the least amount of things to show, and part of that is because I didn't work for part of 2019. I did do some water. I did explore deviating from reference photos more, building my confidence, getting more illustrative, and basically trying new things. I dipped back into portraiture a little bit because I really left that abandoned for a long time. I think in this year I did a number of experimental or abstract things. I'm not sure that I actually have all of the work from 2019 up on here, but really there just wasn't a whole ton of it. I made 100 tiny penny paintings in a week. I made this. But yeah, I kind of teetered off, I think, in 2019. And that brings us to 2020, which is, you guessed it, this year, currently, at least when I'm making this video. 2020 was a combination of me not working and then getting back into work. I've actually made a good amount of work, I think, for how long I've been back at it. My methodology for getting back into things was just to start making. Things really do get clear just by going through the motions and acts, and as you work, your ideas get more refined, and then hopefully you can get to a place like this where now I'm able to look back at things and be a little bit more informed maybe about perspective into what my next steps are. 2020, I made a lot of work in my sketchbook. I did more outdoor things in general. I went camping, but I would do outdoor drawing. I just have been practicing and making. I did a number of very realistic works in 2020, a few hand paintings, some boat work. I've also really enjoyed working in mixed media this year, incorporating things like pencil, colored pencil, marker, oil, acrylic, hairspray. But where does that leave us now, having looked back at all of that stuff, and what are my next steps? How do I be intentional now about moving forward with my art and my interests? I determined the main things I want to consider are 1. Subject matter, 2. Medium, 3. Scale, 4. Intention, and 5. Style. I think that faces and portraiture, and there's actually a few larger works that I haven't shown that I will show. From 2019 and 2020 I made these. I think that kind of stuff is integrating into my interests, but I don't think that it's yet become a primary focus. I do think that over the years my interest in landscape has stayed pretty consistent, so I think as far as subject matter goes, that's something I should hold near and dear. I think that I'll keep with mixed media, but I really do like what oil paint has brought to my older paintings. I want to reintegrate that more intentionally. I think that I would like to be working in my sketchbook still, doing smaller studies, but I think that I would like to increase some of the scale and grandeur and awe of some of my pieces. I've been making some years just huge quantities of art, and I think that it would probably be beneficial for me to make some more time-intensive pieces for my own development. Intention. This is hard. What do I want my intention to be? When I talk about intention, this is like a question of artist statement, of artist intent. What are you going for with your art? What is the purpose? What's your aim? I want to explore a question that I think is important to think about in your artwork, which is, what do you think about when your mind wanders? This is kind of a mindfulness type question. I've definitely been thinking about healing and psychology, how to change your mind, neuroplasticity, people, sadness, tension, color, beautiful, awe-inspiring things. I think that there are ways to bring a lot of those together, and I think that I can explore things like energy, color, and peace-giving kind of images. And then as far as style, I think I kind of talked about that with incorporating painterliness, mixed media, as well as oil, realism, and color development. I honestly, 6 years out of art school, feel like I have a lot to learn still, and I think it's a humbling process coming back to making art and confronting the ways in which I still experience a skill gap, and I still have places that I want to be that I have not arrived yet at. That'll be a process for me, something to keep me on my toes for the next 6 years of my artist career. But I'm here. I'm still into art. I'm still choosing it. I'm 6 years out of art school. I don't know if I'll get a master's. I think about it sometimes. If you guys have any insights or comments or things you'd like to share from this video about your work or mine, I would love to hear it in the comments, and I hope to see you around on my social media platforms at Sealark. And I also hope that you have a wonderful day. Okay, bye.